Hello, everyone. Welcome to 4BC from the stands. Sam Leckie, your host here. We're just going to chat every week to the movers and shakers in Queensland and Aussie sport. And I wanted to kick it off this week with a team that will give it a shake this year, absolutely. The Dolphins into their fourth season in the NRL. Year-on-year improvements for them so far in their time, and they're going to be a genuine threat this year. So I'm joined by their assistant coach and rugby league legend himself, Nathan Fien. Nathan, thanks for your time. How's your preseason been? Looking forward to it and things really getting underway on Sunday.
Yeah, mate. It's been a long preseason. All the boys are very keen to sort of get out there. We've obviously had a couple of trials under the belt now, and I know all the boys and everyone involved at the club is very keen to sort of kick off things on Sunday week against the Rabbitohs. Up at Suncorp Stadium at home. So, look, we've got through the trial period pretty much injury-free and, which is obviously always the main goal. But, very much looking forward to seeing how we get out there and putting it all together, on the season proper.
What do you sort of take from those trials? Because, I mean, the loss to the Titans obviously not ideal, and most trials, as they always are, were quite scrappy at times. But is it just about getting that match fitness up, or was there anything that you were trying to, in terms of the way that you're going to play, defend, attack, was there anything you were trying to take out of them?
Oh, look, you're always trying to improve on, little areas of your game that you thought needed, addressing from last season. Defensively, we had some things that we felt we can definitely improve on, and just getting some combination and game time back into a lot of our senior guys have been out for extended sort of periods as well. So getting those guys, getting the rust or the cobwebs out and getting back into the flow of things was probably the main goal. Our attack. We just keep sort of building with regards to that. We've definitely got some strike players, and obviously Selwyn coming into the mix now as well is going to add another dimension to that. But look, there's always little aspects to work on. I know I've gone in a roundabout way to answer your question, but we sort of wanted to focus on all the little key areas of our game, and to some degree for parts of the trials, both trials, we've been able to do what we were hoping to do. So, we're pretty confident and positive about round one versus South.
You mentioned Selwyn, and there's a couple of other additions like Morgan Knowles as well joining the fold. But who's really impressed you this preseason? Selwyn has looked in great shape, and a couple of guys returning from injury too. But some young guys. I mean, Brian Punia really good in the trials, and we've heard a lot about him the last couple of weeks and his amazing story. Has anyone taken you by surprise though, or really impressed you in the way that they've come back for preseason?
Look, all of those guys that you mentioned have had great pre-seasons and, definitely chomping at the bit to get out there and putting their hand up for selection. I've really liked just watching Tommy Flegler's progression through the pre-season. Obviously, there was still a lot of questions around, was his shoulder or was he at a point where he was able to get back even onto the field? So, he's been here since day one of pre-season and gone through the ups and downs that a pre-season can bring. And, mate, just watching him then transfer, I guess, what the high performance staff have done with him in, through his rehabilitation, to now be able to do what he's doing on the field is quite remarkable. So, yeah, I guess I know he's a very seasoned campaigner in a sense, but having him out for the last couple of years, it gives me a lot of excitement just to have him out back on the field with us.
It's almost like you got two new recruits, because him and Tommy Gilbert coming back in, your skipper too, who haven't played a lot of footy in recent years, so they're fresh, flat faces really in terms of NRL footy. When you consider the last couple of years, and they got through their minutes in trials, but what's it do to a side that's been on the cusp of finals for a couple of years to welcome their talent and experience back into that group?
Oh, it's invaluable. As you mentioned, Tommy's had a rotten run with luck, with some of his injuries over the past couple of years. And, it's their experience and their presence on the field, for our younger guys, I think will be, the biggest benefit that we'll see, that calming influence when things do get under pressure. Obviously, when you do have guys out, like we have done over the last couple of years, it enables you to sort of blood, some young talent. And, we're in a much better position, I guess, from a depth point of view, because, touch wood, we have had a few injuries, and obviously we don't want to see that this year. But, we know it's part and parcel with footy, and your top 30 squad from player 1 to 30 is so important, because I think we may have used 29 of our top 30 last year. So, that being the case, it's always important to keep building, the strengths of those players down sort of towards that bottom end of that 30. So if they do get opportunities, they can get thrust out there and do a job that we need them to do. So, I think a lot of positives have sort of come out of those injuries, but, it's awesome to have them back on the field with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they both go round one.
That's sort of been the story of the Dolphins that, like, for the last 3 years, now 4, is that you're a brand new club, and it's a great endorsement for a brand new NRL side, that every single young guy that's come in has done the job that he's come in to do, and now you've got that depth. I mean, obviously, you basically lose your whole forward pack last year and makes it very difficult to make a run from the good platform that you built early in the season. But now that you've got that depth, must give you so much confidence that you can cover it and push for finals, even if a couple of key guys go down.
Yeah, spot on. It's like that next man up mentality, I suppose you could say. And, those injuries that you mentioned, again, the likes of Max Plath was able to sort of establish himself. Kurt Donahue was able to establish himself. And, these guys are key components to our team, and will play big roles in how we go our business week in, week out. So, yeah, look, I think we're in a really good position. Like every team, though, we've worked really hard through the preseason. We're very confident going into the start of the season. But, a ball still hasn't been kicked in anger at this stage. But, when you've got the strike that we do out wide and, a couple of those really key guys coming back in through the middle part of the field, it definitely gives the place a lot of confidence. And, we'll hopefully get off to a good start. Last year we were 0-4 after the first 4 weeks. So obviously that needs to be addressed, and we're hopeful that the work that we've put in over the preseason will hold us in good stead, and looking forward to getting out there.
Another young bloke that we got to look at in trials is a young man by the name of Noah Fien. How special to see him run out in a Dolphins jersey, and one of the youngsters who helped the comeback last week against the Warriors.
Yeah, look, Noah's like all those young guys. They've done really well in their is for a lot of them their first preseason. Definitely deserved his opportunity to get out there and have a run. And, seeing, him, Atticus, you mentioned Brian, Sangster, Eli, all of these young boys, they really held their own. And, they probably brought a bit of, I guess, energy and a bit of momentum to our game through that last 20 against the Warriors. And, it was actually quite fun and enjoyable just watching them go about their business. But it shows that the pathways here, and what guys like Kurt Richards and Haynen, all the guys in the recruitment space have done, and been able to sort of develop these kids along the way. And a lot of them have been named in sort of Merging Origin 19 teams, and they've been a part of our 21s and our Meninga Cup teams and those sorts of things along the way. So they've all come through together, and it's great to see them get an opportunity sort of running out there in Dolphins colours.
Yeah, that future and the present, both very bright. And I mean, part of that present is going to be, and another guy I want to ask you about, Trey Fuller, who again was really impressive in trials, has impressed every time he's pulled on a Dolphins jersey. But you've got him that plays fullback and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow that plays fullback. And I think Wolfie's already said that it'll be the Hammer that plays fullback. But again, to have that depth, and it's a handy headache to have to choose between Trey Fuller or the current Queensland fullback.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think we were only talking about it the other day, actually. Every time Trey's got his opportunity, he's been there or thereabouts in Players Player, which is, the award that, from a player's point of view, is probably the one most coveted, and the one that you want to win, to be voted by your peers that you're the one that they want to play with. So, Trey, we've seen him pop up in the centres. Throughout the trial period, he's done a fantastic job. He played on the wing, in the Prime Minister's 13 over there in PNG at the back end of the season. So, look, he's someone that will definitely play a role for us this year, and it'll be a big and important role, but we just don't quite know what that role is at this point in time. Hammer's a class player, and obviously the incumbent Queensland fullback, and, you've got to have him in the side. He's coming off his most productive sort of year in terms of tries scored, and, just the footy and that he's playing out on the end of our line or end of our shapes, is getting better and better as well. So I guess the new rules in terms of having 6 on the bench might, enable Wolfie to, use Trey in some capacity as those, 18th and 19th players perhaps, and, just seeing how the game goes, might be able to sort of get injected into the game just to open it up at some point. Just trying to figure it all out as we go at the moment. But he's someone, that can definitely do a job for us, that's for sure.
You mentioned the 19 players, the six-man bench, and there's a couple of other little rule tweaks that are coming in this year, mainly around the six agains, and later in the year we might see an issue with the kickoff. But has it changed much of the prep, the new rules when it comes to this pre-season, particularly around potentially having more guys on the bench?
Look, we've obviously had discussions, but we're only talking the sign off on all of those rules over the last 2 weeks. So I guess everyone's sort of just trying to find their feet and just, I guess, trying to strategize around how to, I guess, use it to your advantage, I suppose, or how you might approach things. Are you just going to go with a fixed 17, or do you need to be a little bit more flexible with some of the bench, and have everyone available? So, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the different teams sort of use it through the opening stages of the competition. But for us, look, I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but we've got some really good guys with utility value. So whether it takes out guys like that in terms of their status in the game, I'm not too sure. But look, it's a change that we all have to get used to, obviously, because it's been signed off and will only add another element of intrigue to the competition.
We've been talking for just over 10 minutes and haven't even mentioned Isaiah Katoa yet. And I want to ask you about him because I spoke to him before his second year on 4BC, and he was 20 then and just speaks like he's been in the game forever. Then you watch him play and it looks the same. You were a rep halfback and playmaker yourself, and he already is, and he'll continue to play rep footy. But what's it been like working with him in your time at the Dolphins so far?
Yeah, I've loved it. Everything that you mentioned is spot on. He's one of the most cool, level-headed young blokes I've ever seen. I can guarantee you I wasn't like that when I was 19 and 20 years old, that's for sure. Very rough around the edges I was back in the day. But, Izzy's fantastic, mate. Just his knowledge and his, I guess his football IQ, the way he sees the game, the way he's able to create, different looks, to preserve space for some of our strike out wide is just really great to watch. And, I'm glad I've been able to have a small role in his development. And, he's obviously entrusted by Wolfie in the sense that, when Tommy did go down last year, he had the captaincy, thrown upon him, and he handled that with ease, really, and played some of his best footy towards that back end of the year and led us throughout, that run where we were, pushing for the 8. So, look, I'm really keen to see how he goes this year. His combination, obviously, with Cody Nicarima is quite special. They seem to be on the same wavelength on most times or most plays, and the way Hammer pops up, and the space that they create for Herbie and Jake Avarillo or Bostock or Selwyn or Jermaine, like we've just got strike everywhere. So it's great to have a halfback that's able to create space and time for guys like that, so we can play the brand of footy that we like playing.
Just a couple of quick ones before we wrap up. Fien, I want to ask what it's like having two Mount Isa boys kicking around at Redcliffe with yourself and Wolfie on the coaching staff. Is there like a little clique that's been formed with the Mount Isa boys, or?
Mate, it's a bit like that because you got Benny Wolf as well, obviously Christian's brother. Yeah, we all sort of knew each other back in the Isa all those years ago. But geez, I could tell you some stories.
Feel free. I can imagine. And just very quickly, an insight into your team away from the footy field. I don't know if you've seen. I'm sure you have. But Jacob Elordi's been in town. I don't expect that you've seen that Wuthering Heights movie, but he was a footballer before going into acting. And I want you to pick out for me one guy in this Dolphins squad who could make that transition into acting.
Oh, it'd have to be Herbie, wouldn't it? I reckon Herbie would back himself to be able to nail a role like that, a leading man role in a Hollywood block.
Seen him in the Budgie Smuggler ads.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I'd definitely say Herbie would put his hand up for that and would handle it quite well. Well, he'd tell you he would anyway.
Fien, thanks so much for your time. It's been great chatting and really looking forward to what the Dolphins can do this year. That first finals push is well within reach, and looking forward to seeing it all kick off at Suncorp next Sunday against Souths.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.